It is a privilege and an honor for me to get to speak to you today. And I say that because I have a master's degree in finance, and I'm a financial advisor. So I work with people all the time, and I help them with their stocks and bonds and mutual funds and all that good stuff. And it's fun. And I get paid for helping people, and I love it. But the reason that I find this more enjoyable is because I get to teach and speak to the future of America. That's right. Have you ever thought about that? You are the future of America. Now, there's a lot of people out there that say a lot of negative things about your generation. I'm not one of them. Those people are like crabs in a bucket. Have you ever heard that? If you put a crab in a bucket, you have to put a lid on it because the crab's just going to crawl right out. But if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, you don't need a lid on it, because if any crab tries to get out of there, the other ones will pull it back down. And that is what dream stealers are like. And that's what the media is like. Because they like to choose the bad apples, and they project them and make it look like that is what your generation is. But I don't believe that. And so I'm here to speak to you, to let you know that you are going to succeed. I have faith in you, and I want you to know that there are other people who have faith in you as well. Now, tonight, I'm going to talk to you with 3 stories. And if you listen to these stories and you get the message out of what I'm trying to tell you, they can impact your life in such a way that you'll never be the same. And that is my hope. Okay, story number 1. There was a teacher that wanted to make a point with his students. And so he put a jar on top of his desk, and he got some rocks. He had a bag of rocks, and they were maybe about that big. And he put these rocks in the jar, and he put as many in as he could get in. And then he asked the class, and he said, "Class, is the jar full now?" And everybody nodded, and they said, "Sure, yeah, it's full." So then he reached behind his desk. He picked up a bag of gravel, a lot of small pebbles, and he poured that in. And of course, it went all around the big rocks, and he poured it up to the top. And then he said to the class, "Now is it full?" And they all laughed, and they realized that they'd been tricked, and they said, "Yeah, it's full now." So then he picks up a bag of fine sand, and he takes that sand and he pours it into the jar. And then he says, "Is it full now?" And this time nobody said anything, because they figured this guy, is trying to prove a point, and perhaps there's something else that they don't know. So nobody said anything. And this time he got a pitcher of water, and then he poured the water in. And when the water came all the way up to the top, he said, "Class, the jar is now full." And so then he asked them, he said, "Well, what do you think this represents?" And they had a discussion. A lot of people had ideas and everything. And finally, they all concluded that it meant that when you think you've done everything, there's still a little bit more you can probably do. The teacher said, "Well, that's a good analysis, but that's not the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make was that the big rocks that I put in first, those represent the priorities in your life. And if you don't put the rocks in first, you can't get them in. So if you don't put the priorities of life into your life, then you're going to find out that you cannot be a success in this life." Now, if you had started with the water, or if you started with the sand, or if you started with the pebbles, you never would have been able to get those rocks in. Okay, that's story number 1. Remember, you've got to put your priorities in life first. Okay, story number 2. And this story is about me. And it's one that I'm probably going to tell until the day I die, because it impacted me in such a way that I could never be the same after it happened. And I hope you are the same when you hear this story. When I was 17 years old, I was a freshman in college, I turned 18 shortly after that, but I was one of the youngest ones. And I, believe it or not, you can't tell by the way I look now, but I was quite an athlete, and I was able to run very, very fast. In fact, I was the 19th best runner in the state of New Jersey in cross country. And when I got to this college, I really wanted to join a fraternity. And I found out that they had a tremendous sports program. And I wanted to play football, and I wanted to play basketball, I wanted to play softball. And I wanted to do these things. But I did not want to go into all of the pledging and the hazing and all the nonsense that you have to do when you're going to get into a fraternity. So I was kind of thinking about it. Do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? And one night, while I was in my dorm, there was a knock on the door, and the president of the fraternity was there, along with one of the other officers. And they said, "Mike, we've got a deal we want to make you. Tomorrow is the annual cross-country race. There's going to be about 350 runners in this race. They're going to be people from the dorms, people from all the fraternities. They're all going to run together. And if you'll run for us and finish in the top 25, then we'll let you into the fraternity without any pledging, without any hazing, nothing. You're in." So I said, "Man, count me in, I'll do it." Now, the next morning came, I thought about the race all day, and didn't really know whether I should go out fast or slow, but I decided I'll go out conservatively, and then I'll just pick up the pace. And that's exactly what I did. When that gun went off, I ran at a pretty steady pace, and then I began to pick it up and pick it up and pick it up, and I felt terrific, because I was in great shape then. And we got to a point in this 3-mile race where we came around this bend, and it was a slight downhill, and it was about half a mile. You could see all the way to the finish line. Now, when I turned that corner, I saw 5 guys bunched up around here. Then behind them, about 20 yards, 30 yards, there was another guy. Then about 20 yards behind him was another guy. And then me. Yes! I'm in 8th place. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Man, I'm in, because there's no way that anybody's going to pass me," because I was feeling terrific. And here I am, I'm in the top 25, and I'm feeling really good. And then all of a sudden, I noticed the 2 guys in front of me, they're starting to wobble a little bit. They're not running quite as smoothly as they were before. And the thought came to me, "Mike, you can catch those guys." And then I thought, well, what difference does it make? Who cares whether I come in 6th place or 8th place? It doesn't matter. All I need to do is come in the top 25. And so this little voice said to me, "Yeah, but you can catch those guys." And the other little voice said to me, "But why? Because it's going to hurt. And I don't want it to hurt. I just want to coast in." And so I kept this battle going on with myself. And then I decided just to coast in. I wasn't going to do anything that was going to hurt myself. And so I came in, and back then, I don't know if they still do that now, but back then, they would hand you a popsicle stick as you crossed the finish line, and it had your number on it. So if you came in 1st place, you would get a popsicle stick that said number 1. If you came in 2nd place, say popsicle stick would say number 2. And then after the end of the race, you'd all line up and hand your popsicle stick in, and then they would get your name. Well, when I crossed the finish line, they handed me my popsicle stick, and just as I was looking at it, I hear all my fraternity brothers yelling at me, "Segalo, you could have won that race." And as I looked down on the popsicle stick, it said 3. Now, I'm really confused at this point, because I know I counted 7 guys ahead of me. And then one of my fraternity brothers puts his arm around me and said, "Mike, didn't you know that the first 5 guys were from the varsity cross-country team? They were just showing you guys the course." I couldn't believe it. I could have won that race. I could have caught those 2 guys, but I didn't, because I was lazy and because I didn't have the discipline to go do it. And what I learned from that story is that there are 2 pains in this life, and you will experience one of them. You have no choice. You have a choice which one you'll get, but you will get one of those pains. And one is the pain of discipline, and the other one is the pain of regret. regret. And I can tell you, the pain of regret lasts a long, long time. It's been over 30 years since that race occurred, and there are not too many days that go by that I don't think about it. I could have had that trophy, and I could have been the winner. So I learned right then and there that if I want to be successful in life, it's going to take discipline. Story number 3. There was a young boy. He was the son of an itinerant horse trainer. And this horse trainer would travel from ranch to ranch, from racetrack to racetrack, and he would bring his son wherever he went. And so this kid's schooling was interrupted quite a bit. He went to a lot of different schools. And in senior year, he had an assignment. He was supposed to write a paper about what he wanted to do when he grew up. And so the kid went home that night, and he put his heart and soul into this thing. He wrote a 7-page paper, and he said that he wanted to have a 200-acre ranch, and he wanted to have a 4,000 square foot home. And not only did he write that, but he actually drew out on paper where the house would sit, where all the buildings would sit, and then he showed in the paper where each room in the house was going to be. I mean, he did an elaborate presentation for this paper. And he was pretty excited about it. He turned it in, and 2 days later, he got the report back. And on the report was a big red F. And then a note which said, "See me after class." Now he was kind of startled. He couldn't understand why in the world he would have gotten an F when he did such a great job on this paper. So after school, he went and he talked to the teacher and he said, "Why did you give me an F?" And the teacher said, "Because your paper is totally unrealistic." He said, "You're poor. You will never be able to do what you wrote in this paper. Do you have any idea what it takes to get a ranch? Do you know how much money you're going to need? Do you know that you're going to have to do this and that and this and that?" And he listed a whole bunch of stuff that he was going to have to do. And he said, "I'll tell you what. I'll give this back to you, and if you rewrite your paper with a more realistic goal, then I'll reconsider your grade." Now, the kid was pretty discouraged, as you might imagine, and he went home that night, and he said to his dad, he said, "Dad, what should I do?" And his father very wisely said, "Son, this is something that you're going to have to decide. But I can tell you this, your decision is very important." And so the kid thought about it for the whole week. And then when the time came where he was supposed to hand the paper in again, he decided to hand it in just as it was. And the reason he did that is he said to his teacher, "You can give me an F, but I'm going to keep my dream." And then, 20, 30 years later, he was addressing a group of people in his home. And he told them that story. And he said, "People, you are sitting in my 4,000 square foot house, and you are on my 200-acre ranch. And you see above the fireplace, that's my report. It's framed. Don't you ever let anybody steal your dreams. You go after your dreams and you follow your heart." And so I've told you 3 stories tonight. You need to put your priorities in place and keep what is important first in your life. You need to be disciplined. And don't let anybody ever steal your dreams. You have a choice of whether or not you're going to be a success in this life. That's the beauty. Now, go make something of your life. Choose